Hey people, it's me again. So, anyways, um, there was this thing that was going on lately. If anybody had ever really had been going on watching like the news about how there was this social media ban in Australia that had recently taken effect, but in a way, I think of it as just that it is probably not going to really keep you know, some people under 16 away from social media because, after all, they're going to use other methods to circumvent that, whether it's VPNs or faking their ages and all this sort of stuff. But it's all kind of like, you know, what was going on in the UK with the digital ID thing. And lately now, there's hints that there's a digital ID thing being proposed in Congress here in America. So, considering all that, I just don't think that's going to really work out in the end because I feel that if that sort of thing does become law, then it's going to be, the ACLU or Electronic Frontier Foundation is going to do a lawsuit against that, and then just try to, and then of course make some sort of very solid argument. Even the most staunch conservatives could also say it's a good argument about expectation of privacy and all of that, you know. And then as far as like the other thing when it comes to like conservative principles of like keeping the government out of people's personal lives, that sort of thing, is another argument that would be presented if somehow there's a digital ID law here in America. And one of the reasons it may not even work out is like, look what happened in the UK when it came to all that. So kids would have their own way of like, you know, circumventing the whole digital ID thing. And so it just still doesn't really prevent them from accessing materials that they shouldn't be accessing in the first place. You know, but it's all just what I said earlier about lazy parents who just want the government to do um, the the heavy lifting as far as actually raising kids, and that was kind of like the thing that I said earlier about it, that um, that when it came to that, it was just like typical order ilk, wanting to censor things because they don't really want to actually do the heavy lifting of actually parent, as far as that goes when it comes to filtering out, unwanted materials and stuff like that, and it's just, you know, lazy parenting of that sort because there were certain like TV shows that made that kind of mocking that kind of thing, if I recall correctly, especially like on that episode of what was it called again? Um, Futurama, and it was like one of the, in I'm trying to remember the name of the episode, but it was the episode where Bender was on All My Circuits and how, you know, he was supposed to be like this bad influence or something, and not necessarily, but then again, it was all of these sort of parents were, you know, especially the dads were just up in arms because they were just being lazy parents of that sort, you know, for that matter. And it was just like the same thing as it was before, these were the same parents who also were just too lazy to do that when it comes to music, video games, and TV shows, and all of that. And and that was just the bigger problem in and of itself. So, anyways, as I said before about it, that kids are gonna find ways to circumvent all of that, and so it's just, so what's the whole point of all of that? You know what I mean? So, anyways, talk to you guys later.